Hi everyone, I'm Brian and welcome to Bugbears and Brews. Sadly, I've had some personal issues going on in my life, so I haven't been running any games on the Wednesday nights like I normally do, so that means there's no recaps to do. However, in order to get some content, I was sitting there thinking about what could I talk about, and favorite campaign came to mind. I've ran a decent amount of out-of-the-box campaigns, being an Adventure League DM and organizer for 4+ years now. And I started taking over the Adventure League back about 4 years ago. We had a blow up at the store. I don't recall the exacts behind it. And the old crew left, so the old DMs and old organizers left. And so that left a void. And me just getting into D&D at this time said, hey, you know what? I like this. I'm going to go ahead and take over. And so I took over from there. Is right around the Crystal Staff campaign storylines. If anybody does the Encounter Leagues, they might remember that one from 3 or 4 years ago, leading up to the Vault of the Dracolich, followed by the D&D Next mini campaigns that they had, and then finally into the actual 5th edition campaigns. So like Rise of the, I almost said Rise of the Ring Lords. The Dragon Queen quest line or story chain, as well as the Rise of the Demons out of the Abyss. Out of all those, there were some good ones in between there. There were some bad ones. And oddly enough, the ones that I liked the most were the mini campaigns that came out between D&D Next, or between the end of 4th edition and beginning of 5th edition. And these were the ones that were designed to be played with the D&D Next stuff. I think they did have some information on how to convert into 4th edition if you didn't want to do that. However, I stuck with the D&D Next rules and just kind of left it as is. There was a lot of tweaking that had to go on in there because if anybody remembers D&D Next, it was all playtest material, and so things were not quite balanced appropriately. And we treated those we treated them in a good way, I think. We started off with Murderers of Baldur's Gate, and then we actually kept the same crew, same characters and all that, and moved on to the Legacy of the Crystal Shard, followed by the Daggerford one. I forget what the Daggerford one was called, but we branched them all the way between. So by the time we wrapped up and we actually broke into actual 5th edition play, we were level 12 or 13, and I had some good fun with it. But out of all of them, I would have to say that Murder in Boulder Gate was my favorite one of the campaigns, period, that I've done. Part of it, I think, is because I was such a Baldur's Gate computer game slappy back in the day, and I still am. I try to play it about once a year. So, playing a game based on, that section was really fun. There's also a lot of intrigue, and the players never really knew who the good guy was. And so they kept on bouncing between who was good guys, who was bad guys. And I apologize. I should say there might be spoilers for the Murders in Baldur's Gate campaign. So if you ever plan on running it or playing it at some point, it's kind of old now, so I'm not sure there's too many people out there looking at it. But if you don't want to know about it, I would say go ahead and turn it off. But like I said, there was a lot of mystery and intrigue with this one. It was kind of interesting to play a campaign that was set nearly wholly in the city. I think they went out a couple times into the wild, but for the most part, the group was in the city. And it was just some good fun. I mean, there was some very crazy situations the players got into. It was where I originally met Lee, tabletop gaming with Juice. So Juice from that's when he came to my my encounters group and started playing with that. I remember one of the situations was that the players came across a circus and they had to do some sort of distraction to sneak in and get some information from a ledger or something like that. And so they let all these circus animals out, and these were cockatrices and rust monsters and all that. No, that's not normally a big deal, but when you're dealing with like level 1 and 2 characters, those are pretty crazy monsters to deal with. And at first they're like, "Oh, screw it, we'll just let it, not worry about it, and the guard can deal with it." However, some of the monsters wandered over to the area where they had to go through, so they wound up having to fight like a giant toad and a cockatrice, and I think it was a rust monster. All at the same time. So that was some fun there. Additionally, one of my favorite things about the campaign is this lovely DM screen that it came with. It's a little flimsy, but the material within it is kind of nice. They have some random encounters which could be used for any city. There's also some of the ranks, which is kind of relevant to just Baldur's Gate, but they have a nice map for it, and it's just pretty. Thinking back on this campaign, I would like to run this again, either with a fresh group of players or far enough away that it's no longer in my player's head, but flesh it out. Maybe not bring it and be like the exact murder in Baldur's Gate. Maybe tweak it up a little bit. Realistically, you could spin this and use the idea of 3 powers playing off each other with none of them really being the good guy, none of them really being the bad guy. And during the whole campaign there, the one you worked for actually kind of was power playing the other people and ended up being the bad guy. So from a theatrics-wise or mechanics-wise, there really was no good guy. It just ended up being whoever that you sided with the most ended up being the bad guy, which that's kind of interesting because the players think, oh, we're doing some good. I think they went mostly with Revengard, who was the leader of the Flaming Fist, and they routed out Ravel and Rael and the Silver. What was the other guy's name? Oh well, the patriarchal guy. They kind of routed him out too, and put Revengard in this place of power, and it's kind of interesting because at the end it's like, hey, he gives the players an option to join him if they want, and 2 or 3 of my players actually ended up joining him and wound up being a fight against party versus party with the boss as well in the end. In the end, it worked out on the side of the good party, but it was interesting to have that party on party mechanic there and actually have meaning behind it because these players craved the power. Additionally, there was that's where they got their boat too, was in the Murders of Baldur's Gate campaign. I don't remember the boat's name exactly. It was Salty something, Sea Salt Spray, Salty Dog, Salty something. But they had some fun with the boat, decking it out, and then we did a mini venture on the way up to Icewind Dale, and sadly they left the boat in Luskin and traveled up to Icewind Dale, but eventually got it back when they went back down from Icewind Dale down to Daggerford. So it was kind of nice to bring the boat back into play with that as well. Speaking of the boat, probably one of my favorite moments of the campaign is we had a rogue who he would do some goofy things, and he attempted to light somebody on fire with alchemical fire and wound up lighting himself on fire and kept on missing his saving throws. And the guy almost, the player character almost died, and we're sitting there telling the meta-wise, like, hey, Sean, you can jump in the water and that'll put out the fire just fine and you'll live. And he wound up doing it eventually with like 1 hit point left. But he went through 3 or 4 failed death saves and just kept on getting rammed hard by that fire. So, unsure if you can still find it or not. I would imagine that there's some eBay stuff that you can find it for, find the campaign itself on. So it would be nice to get one with a little bit more. Now that I know what I'm doing, I could probably tweak it a little bit better. But also to get one that's rules are a little bit more fleshed out. That's the one major complaint I have about this campaign was it was made with playtest rules, so there was a lot of balancing that had to be done. Now that I'm a season 5th edition DM veteran, I wouldn't mind going back through here and just kind of cleaning it up and then reusing this at some point. So, but yeah, let me know what your guys' favorite campaigns that you've ran, either out of the box or homebrew. Like someday I wish to do a homebrew campaign, but at the moment, I enjoy the out-of-box campaigns. I figure you can always tailor them enough that they're homebrewy. So I like having to not have to worry about making up the whole world and all that kind of stuff. Although, you do have that pride of ownership when you do the, create your own. So, yeah, let me know what your guys' favorite campaigns are, or if you ever ran the Murders in Baldur's Gate campaign and what you thought of it. Did you find it as interesting as I did? Because, like I said, I really dug it, and I would love to jump back into this someday. So, talk to you later, guys. Thanks.